goal is, not get to that. Not good enough this past year. Not good. You're right, it should have been more than 12. My kids tell me that all the time. All right, so just a few things. I'll give you some stories that I've come across into why I'm here is to try to help. We have on here, trying to build or become a successful team. And how do you do that? And there's so many different personalities in this world. And then you take it to the NFL level, our level, and there's people with crazy different backgrounds, coming from different family backgrounds, whether it's violence or whether it's the all-American family. They're all different. And the one thing for me, for me personally, becoming the head coach of the Chicago Bears was, I heard of this story when I was a player, and it just so happened to be from Doug Plank, who everybody can remember, number 46. He was my head coach in the Arena League for the Georgia Force. And as a player, he sat us down one day, and he talked to all of us. And he gave a great story that I use to this day, and this is what I want to get to everybody here, is I call it the 95-5 rule, or 95-5 rule. What that means is this. He told us, he said, in the morning when you're driving to work, and you look over and you get to a stoplight, you park your car, or you just get to a stoplight, you look over to the right, or you're on the highway, and you see a lot of mean faces. You see people that aren't real happy. No one's excited jamming to their music, that they're pumped they get to go to work at 6 in the morning. That's 95% of America. That's real. 5% of America absolutely loves, and is passionate about what they do. And to us at the time, we were playing Arena League. It wasn't, sure as heck wasn't about the money. But we were loving that we had a chance to still put the pads on after college. And we were a part of that 5%. Fast forward, and as Richard mentioned, I got into real estate. Once I wasn't good enough to make the NFL, I was coaching high school, and I did a supplementary income with real estate. And all of a sudden one day it clicked as I was sitting in a model home. I was doing new home sales. I was sitting in a model home, and it clicked to me that I liked what I was doing, and I liked people coming in, talking about houses. I liked coaching high school football. And actually that's what kept me going. But I didn't love it, and I wasn't part of that 5%. And I promised myself that whatever I do from here on out, I'm going to be a part of that 5%. And it just so happened that, again, success can sometimes become networking and who you know. And then when you give that opportunity, you kick the door down. And my wide receiver in college, Brett Veach, who's now the general manager for the Kansas City Chiefs, relayed my name to Coach Reed in Philadelphia at the time and said, "You've got to get this guy an internship." And so I did an internship, and he ended up calling me. I was at a closing table. I was with a husband and wife. They bought a house, and my phone rang, and it was Coach Reed. And he said, it was a Tuesday, and he said, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "I'm getting ready to make some money and close this house, sell this house to these folks." Well, hey, I got an entry-level job in the NFL. Okay, is this something you'd be interested in? I said, "Coach, let me just call Stacy real quick. I'll get right back to you." 2 minutes later, called Stacy. "Stacy, what do you think?" She goes, "Why are you talking to me right now?" So I called Coach right back. That was on Tuesday. On Thursday, I was sitting in NovaCare in Philadelphia in a cubicle with my name tag, working for the Eagles, just like that. And I instantly, like that, became a part of that 5%. And I lived 100 miles. My house from the driveway to NovaCare was 100 miles. And for 6 months, I drove 100 miles, which is what our chairman here, Georgia, does every day, driving. We just did it. It's crazy. Faves and I, who came with me here, he does this every day. He drives from here to Hallis Hall. And so I did that for 6 months. 6 months was good enough, but I loved what I did. And I was a part of that 5%. And I promised myself, once I got my foot in the door in Philadelphia, that I was never going to be in that 95%. So now we got to win, so I can keep that 5%. But that's my message. That's our message to the players at Hallis Hall. is you're a part of that 5%. So if you're having a bad day and you think it's rough because you're playing in the NFL and you got to sit through an hour-long meeting to learn how to run a certain play, you don't have it bad. Not at all. And so you're in that 5%. So that's very important. That stuck with me. So 95%, 5%. And again, if you're not in that 5%, then whatever you need to do, try to figure it out so you can get in there. And I know for some, it's close to retirement and all that, but you can still get in that 5% even when you hit retirement. And I just really think that's important. For the young people in here, make sure you're a part of that 5%. It's on you, right? You have a choice in which way you want to go. You got to work hard. But that's, you can do it. And trust me, I came from a town of 5,000 people. 5,000, small. And it can be done. The next part of this that we talk about with the players, and this I guess got catchy with the media. They saw the BU part on my call sheet, and the reason why I like to bring that up, why I think it's important, is this is probably just as big of a message. Is we all have different personalities, and so the BU message for me, the reason why that's on there is to remind me just that, right? Don't change. See, what happens is, whatever role it is, when people get a promotion and they get put in a bigger role, or they become, and I can relate to it in this world, as a head coach or a general manager, or they keep moving up the pipeline, what happens is people change. They get egos. And I think that's the number one fault you can have in failure is changing. Don't change. Always be yourself. And are you perfect? No. Am I perfect? No. Do I call the perfect play all the time? No, not at all. Okay? But the reason why I write that on there is because of, at the time, a 12-year-old boy, my son, my oldest son, who reminded me that after a tough loss against the Tennessee Titans 2 years ago. So we lose to the Titans, and for those that haven't heard the story, we lose to the Titans and I'm crushed, I'm devastated. And I have the most important 5-hour interview less than 10 hours later with the Bears. And it's a game changer. And I'm crushed, I'm devastated. I don't even want to think about the interview because I hurt for my team. And I was calling plays at the time. Coach Reed had passed the plays over to me to call the plays. And we struggled in the second half with not running the ball enough. And so I was going to go and prepare later that night for the interview. But I decided, I said, you know what, I got to get home and I got to see my family and just get rejuvenated a little bit before I go in and get some sleep and then head in the morning. On my drive home, I'm by myself, my phone rings. And I'm driving and it's my son, Braden. And Braden, he says, Dad, you doing okay? Yeah. He goes, Dad, did you call the plays in the second half? and I said, I did just that. I started laughing and I said, I go, yes, I called the plays. He goes, Dad, are you still going to have your interview tomorrow? And I said, yeah. Dad, are you sure you're going to have your interview tomorrow? And I said, but I will have my interview. Dad, I hear you. Are you sure? And I said, Greg, I said, dude. He said, are you sure? I said, Greg, I promise you, I'm ready. He cut me off, and he said, hey, Dad. He goes, just be you in the interview. And so that part when I was driving, I can remember exactly where I was when he said that, and it stuck with me. So I went home, saw the boys, went back to the facility. I prepped all night, got a few hours sleep, went back, I met George and everybody else there, and I get in, and George can confirm this in the interview. These interviews can become so scripted. We're dealing with it. We dealt with it in the combine. These kids come in and they're scripted from their agents. Their agents tell them what to say, how to answer questions. It drove me nuts. It happened with Mitchell Trubisky. We interviewed him in Kansas City, and he was very scripted. And we left the interview, and I was just so on his personality. We ended up bringing him in for 6 hours in Kansas City. I fell in love with him, absolutely loved him in 6 hours, but I got to see who he was. So that taught me. So I go into the interview with Chicago, and I got a good feeling as far as the people that I'm know. And so I'm in there, and we're 3 minutes maybe into it, 4 minutes into it, and something in my heart said, you know what? I'm just going to tell them that tell them the story of what happened with Brady the night before, and now I'm going to follow it. And I said, listen, whatever you see in this next 5 hours of this interview, I promise you, you're going to get as long as you have me as the head coach. I'll never change. So what you get in this interview is going to be real. It's going to be authentic. It's not going to change. And I felt very convicted on that. And I thought that that's just so important that they know this is a huge hire for them. They got to get it right. And if I'm not me, and they don't, or I try to act a certain way, and then I change when I'm trying to do things at House Hall, that's not fair to them. And so I need to be myself. Am I going to make every right decision? No. But I'm going to rely on the support staff and everybody around me. So I did that. And at the end of the conversation, 5 hours later, I told them that I'm excited. I really would love the opportunity to be the next head coach. And George cut me off and said, Matt, he said, listen, when you go home tonight, he goes, make sure you tell Brady good advice. And that's how the interview. So now I walked out. Now I got to go interview with the Colts, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I felt good about it, and it felt at home, and it felt real. And so the Be You thing, when you see that, there's so many different things that go. That's reminding me when I call play, if I'm kind of not feeling it, or I'm questioning, do it, right? If there's a decision I have to make, right? And we use that. So we use that in our building. And that's important because there's so many different personalities that are out there. So that's why that'll never change. I'll always have that with me everywhere I go. And it's just nice for that to be your son too, your oldest son that's giving me advice. And so that's where I'm at. And I just think that hopefully that can affect everybody. And no, just be yourself. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And just when you be you, then great things are going to happen. And it's okay to be wrong, but you just gotta just stay the course. Now, we talked as a team in regards to our number one goal, April 3rd last year when we got together, was simple. It wasn't hard. It was win the Super Bowl. That's it. And you don't make it hard. You can go to different levels, but you want to win the Super Bowl. Done. So when we had our first team meeting last year, I sat in a room just like this, looked at a bunch of football players, and when I said that, I'll bet you maybe 10% of the room believed that we could win the Super Bowl, believed that we could win the Super Bowl this past season that we just played. 10% actually truly believed it. Truly believed it. And so when we had our exit interviews after the Philadelphia loss, I did the same thing. I came in here and I talked to the team just like this, and I said, you understand what I'm saying? Do you believe me now? And when we did the interviews with those players, every single one of those players that I met with from our team was fully all in. They were disgusted that we lost because they all said to me, Coach, I truly believe we were going to win the Super Bowl this year. And so it's all about believing. And when I'll always go back to that first meeting that we had, and I'll always use that. Because now, on April 15th, when we get together with the team for the first time here coming up, I'm going to do the same thing. And I promise you, it'll be 100% of those people in that room, 100% are going to believe at what our goal is to win that Super Bowl. And it's going to be conviction. And that's what I'm really proud about with our coaches and our building. Our players, they believe it, and that's real. All right, so how does that happen? Well, there's a few things here. I'm going to hit on a couple bullet points. Number one is with good people. You have to have good people surrounding you. Players, coaches, okay, has to be good people. And so when adversity strikes, it's inevitable. When it strikes, you rally together. And you don't like I said earlier today, it's not a whisper zone. You figure it out, you dig down deep. I've been a part of 9-game win streaks. I've been a part of 6-game losing streaks. That's hard. The 6-gamer is hard. That's not fun. But we rallied back after losing 6. We won 10 in a row. And that was one of the coolest moments as a coach, because you start questioning a lot of things, and you wonder how you're going to get through it. Well, how do you get through it with good people? And so when you have good people around you, good things usually happen. I learned that through Coach Reed's tree. Coach Reed has just a surplus of coaches that have gone through and learned his style of coaching and how to treat people, and that's really affected me. And I think one of the neatest things for me was organically figuring out or indirectly learning on the run in practice, for example. Something I take a lot of notes on in regards to how I could be a head coach someday, and how I could get better. There's a lot that I didn't write down that I just did instinctively from watching Coach Reed that I did in practice. And so now it's amazing. You step back and say, "Man, I just did that." Well, that's why, because I watched him do that for 8 years, and so that's huge. Trusting your coaches. Got to have trust in everybody. That trust is an interesting word, and you got to build that. That's not something that happens just in one week or 1 month. Okay, we've gotten our trust at House Hall. We've gotten our trust to a good point right now. But that's got to keep going because there's free agency. There's more people coming in, and trust is just so high character, great attitude and effort, and all that. If you have that, it's less drama. Drama's not good. We don't need drama. And so we try to get the drama out, and high character people help that. The we culture, I've been a part of it from back in Pennsylvania at Mannheim, Delaware. It was a team, it felt like family. And now here in Chicago, it's so important. And that's why we reach out to the city, to the fans, because when we go ahead and when we win a game, we do it together. Okay? When we lose a game, we feel it. Right? We feel it together. It hurts. But that's why it's so important that we all understand. In the building, one of the things that I wanted to get across to the people in the building is, number one, knowing what everybody's names are. So the people that are cooking the food in the kitchen, the janitors, what are their names? What are their backgrounds? Who are their family? Who are their kids? It's important. When we win a game, man, they're fired up. When we lose a game, they're crushed. And sometimes they don't know how to handle it. They think it's the end of the world because they're so passionate. And so, for me, when you lose a game, week 8, week 9, and I come in the morning and they're there at 5:30 in the morning cooking eggs or doing whatever, and they don't know whether they should look at me or not because we lost. You know, I try to pump them up and show them the world's not coming to an end. You know, it's going to be good. We know what we're going to do. We're going to rally. We're going to figure out a way to get back on track and go win the next game. And then you win that game and then keep going. And we're learning that within the building, that's how we roll around here. That's how we roll. And it's to me, that's the fun part. And then the other part of that is, you know what's hard? And especially now, this is going to be our biggest challenge. This is going to be our biggest challenge. 12-4, 7-1 at home, NFC North, right? Everybody all the talk. You know what our record is when we meet April 15th? 0-0. That's our record. Okay? And it's my job to make sure that it's better than 12-4 next year. But the players got to understand, you don't just walk into that building now. I've said it. We're now hunted. We're not the hunter. And so we got to make sure that when you win, you don't think that you can just walk on the field and win the game, right? There's a lot of hard work involved. It's actually harder when you win than it is when you're losing. You know, you got to get that next win. And then you win 2 or 3 in a row. Now all of a sudden, so true story, clubbed up, okay? We got that rolling pretty good. So one of the weeks, clubbed up after a win, we won like 5 in a row, and one of the clubbed ups was just right here. It was just, they weren't really fired up. And it bothered me. It bothered me. And so at the right moment, on Tuesday morning, 2 days later, I told him it bothered me. And don't ever take winning for granted. Don't ever take it for granted. It's too hard. It's hard to win. You get 16 chances to win the NFL. Every one of those bad boys, you better make them count. And I think that it hit. And next week, we won again, thankfully. Man, they were going crazy. We had coaches in there. Everybody was in there going, wow, they understood, man. It's important that you do not take it for granted. It's hard. And so that we thing is just way too important. Authentic relationships. Okay? When you have a relationship with somebody, is it real or is it fake? And you can tell. You can tell when you shake somebody's hand. you look them in the eye, are they really hearing what your name is? Or are they just trying to get to the next part of the conversation or shake somebody else's hand next, right? What's real? And so when you meet, for our players, having a relationship, bringing them up to my office and talking to them and finding out about their wife, their girlfriend, their kids, you know, what ticks with them. You got to know that. And if it's not authentic, you can have relationships, but if it's not real, it's not authentic, it won't work. And I thought that our coaches did a great job at making that important with that. And part of that is being honest. Okay, being honest is huge. Everybody in here will agree that I believe in having fun. That is why when my 4 boys go and they play sports, when they play other sports, basketball, football, baseball, golf, whatever, I'll always finish every conversation with them. Every single one, okay, will be have fun. If you're not having fun, don't play. Have fun. Okay? And so that's the message to these grown-up players in the NFL. It's so serious, and if you screw up, you could get cut as to how they think. Right? If you don't coach well, you get fired. But you gotta why not have fun while you're doing it? Hence, Clubbed Up. Hence, we have this Saturday, we ended up building into a Saturday morning American Idol dance competition. It was awesome. It was cool. So we have our Fabes, where you at? Fabes he's a judge. He's one of the American Idol judges, right back there. So what we would do is this is about team bonding, right? So we pick on Tuesday, we'll pick out of a hat, and it's 2 guys on defense versus 2 guys on offense. And on Saturday they have to come up with a skit, and then Saturday morning before our 30-minute walkthrough, we go in the team locker room. Only people in the building, no video cameras, no nothing. That's why you guys haven't seen anything out there. But only I get it. So, and then they dance off, and then we vote, and then there's perks and rewards to whoever wins. But what it did is it really brought us together. And then, you know what was neat was as that started happening, you started seeing a couple more touchdown celebrations on Sunday. Like you saw the orchestra thing and all the stuff in Detroit and all this stuff that 17 did. But I'm okay with that. I tell them, just be quick. Get off the field. We got to go for 2. Or we kick, the extra points there. Be ready. We got to go. You got to get off the field. And so they're learning that part. So we got to get better. But they're having fun. The trick play names. Right? We give them the ability to come up with some names to have fun with it. Oompa Loompa, Santa's Sleigh, the Freezer. Hicks was loving that. And Papa Bear left. First play of last year versus Green Bay, T formation. So, and then defensive players come into offense. See, I have an Arena League background, and also these kids, Arena League play both ways. So I just always tell them, and then they all think they're great athletes. So they remember back to their high school days when Kwiatkowski, our starting linebacker, is catching a ball in the flat versus the Vikings this year at the end of the season. He couldn't wait for that all week long. But that's about having fun. Why not? Right? If you're doing this, have fun with it. Now, there's also that balance. You got to know when you're crossing it. A key here is that I live by is persistence. Ryan and I use this all the time. Persistence over resistance. I can't tell you how often we use that. Persistence over resistance. What does that mean? Okay? What that means is you're fully convicted in what you're doing. You might think, the question is, should I call this, should I do this, should I do that? And just do it. Just do it. Persistent. Maybe you're trying to connect with somebody, they're not answering, call them again, right? But persistence over resistance is huge. And I've always believed in that. It's like riding a bike. Okay? When you're teaching your kids to ride a bike, persistence over resistance. They'll eventually get it. Injuries during the season. How do you handle that? Okay? It's persistence. You got to be smart with that. There's a quote by Winston Churchill here. I'll just read it. I love this. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. That's pretty powerful. And I every now and then, I'm a quote guy. Every now and then, I'll go back and I'll read And I always go back to that one. That one speaks volumes, because I'm a glass half full type guy. That's basically what that is. Relational leadership. So that's my style as a head coach, is relational leadership. How do you get the players to say, you know what, come with me, trust me? And it takes time, and everyone's different, but that's my style. That's how we do things. Our coaches are the same way. They build my weaknesses up, or they correct my weaknesses. I help with their weaknesses, and then our strengths just keep going. But that's huge. How do you do that? Relational leadership. Well, you involve the players with advice. Don't think that you have. I don't have every answer. Matter of fact, I get more respect from the players when I tell them I don't have an answer, or I don't know something, than when I try to give them some other answer that they know I'm lying. Okay, that's why I don't do it. It goes back to honesty. So make sure that you give them ownership. Plus, they like that. An example of this is the players say, "Well, let's not have practice go this long. Let's pull the reps back." Okay, that's good for them. Guess what? It's not good for us. But I'll do a trade-off. If we pull the reps back, okay, then they better be quality reps. And then they're cool with that. And then you go, and then now you just got a win-win. So now they got happy because there's less reps. You got happy because the reps you get are quality. And that's good. So that's the relational leadership that's important. And then we have a players committee. Every Wednesday we get together, and I allow them to voice any concerns that they may have. Some of them legit, others not so legit. All right, the fun part, right? Have fun. I also have, Coach Reed and I always talk about it. I also, deep down inside, not in a bad way, but in a healthy leadership way, have a dark side. What does that mean? That means that when the team checks me, or they think that it's crossing the line a little bit, they'll see my dark side. Probably twice this year. I can tell you exactly when they were. I'm not getting into details. Okay? But they saw it. And I think that's very important that these guys understand that you're not just all hunky-dory, have fun all the time, nothing matters, Lucy, none of that. You better know that deep down inside, you cross the line, you're gonna understand that who I am and how I work, I'm gonna check it. And I think they respect that. That's important. And what are some things? Excuses or blame. I hate excuses. I can't stand them. Selfishness. We don't have that. That's why you bring in a high character person, because high character players aren't selfish. So that eliminates that. What would that be? A big team win, poor stats. A big team win, the stats don't look good. That's selfishness. I don't roll that way. We don't roll that way. That's not what we believe in. And we don't have that. Laziness in practice, sloppiness. What's sloppy? Well, how you maybe don't take notes, or the way you take notes in a meeting. Well, yes. When we have a great week of practice, I always feel so good, because when we get into that game, I know we're going to dominate. And it's amazing how that correlates. And then quitters. You learn a lot. We don't, again, these are ones that can bring out the dark side. We don't have that. That's why I said only twice this year. And that was early in the year when they were learning who we were. You got to be able to manage different personalities. Everyone's different. I talked about that. Tariq Cohen is extremely happy. He likes to run around, do backflips, go crazy, talk about how good he is in Fortnite. And then you get somebody like Allen Robinson, who just does everything. He's one of the best pros I've ever been around. And he just is in the meeting and he just doesn't say much. So that's a beautiful thing, though. Everyone's different. So, but I have to know how to manage those personalities. And then there's Hicks, who's just huge, and if he ever has an issue, I can figure out how to do it the right way. Right now in life, for all of us, is the adapt or die deal. You better adapt. If you don't, you're not going to make it. And with the millennials, it's funny we say that term, the millennials, and how they learn, right? Visually, this whole deal right here all the time. They're just right here. It's crazy. So when I install play up on the board, and then see, you can't go for an hour anymore. Like, we're going kind of long in here, but we can't go for an hour, because you go for an hour, they only heard like 25 minutes of the rest of it. They don't hear it. They don't hear it. So you got to give them a break. So half the room takes a break. go to the bathroom. The other half stays in there. And so when the half of the guys leave and I'm standing there waiting for the next part, I'll look up and every single one of them are just on their phone, just calling tips. And I always, they laugh because I always say, this is America. So we always say about millennials. But then I go to my son's basketball game like 3 weeks ago, and I'm sitting up at the very top, and I just like kind of looking and seeing everybody. And it's a good basketball game, going back and forth, good, everything's good. And then halftime, okay, halftime. I'm sitting up top. I look down, and like 250 fans are like this, all of them. So it's definitely not just, we're all part of it, but that's where we're at right now. How do you reach those, how do you reach people like that? And in the football world, the old Bill Walsh drawing lines, putting it up on the deal with the projector, the 16, all that stuff. You know, our college coaches that are in here, right? That's not how it goes anymore. You got to show video of them doing their stuff. That's the only way they care. All the YouTube, Twitter, everything. So you got to figure out, you got to adapt to them. College is starting to creep into the NFL. We got to adapt with offenses and defenses. And so that's why we like the out of the box type stuff, right? With plays, play design, staying ahead. We want defenses always, we call it chasing the cat's tail. We're always one step ahead. And that's why when we ran that play lollipop against the Vikings, when we threw it to Kwiatkowski in the flat, there's a history behind that where it's a couple different motions back and forth, 3 of them, to tell you the truth. I added a 4th one just for fun on a 2-point play, and we did it. 4 motions just across 4 times, just eye candy. And it worked. And so we did it in Kansas City. Coach Reed never called it. So I called it against him in the preseason this year, and I looked over at him and just gave him a little win. And so we ran it against the Vikings, and we did 4 of them. Monday morning, I get a text message from Coach Reed, and he has a video that he sends, and it's that play going across. He goes, "Oh man," he goes, "You are out of control." And he goes, 4 times? This is heading into the playoffs. He goes, 4 times? He goes, "You're unbelievable." And then there's a pause. He goes, "That's it. I'm going 5 next week." So that's where we're a little bit out of the box. That's the have fun part, but it's got to work. You got to have it work, and you know, as long as it works, then you're okay. You got to balance that. Clear communication. Okay, I talked on that, having clear communication. You know where that gets hard with the clear communication is when you have to deal with hires and fires and cuts and releases. So I came in last year, and there's some people that were not staying. And you know, for me right away, my first time thrusted into this, and there was a gentleman that wasn't going to be staying with us, and he was crushed. And for me, I went right from head coach to friend, and trying to understand from his perspective with family and kids how he's got to go home and say Dad doesn't have a job anymore. That's hard, and it's not easy. And in whatever profession you're in, when you're in that role and you have to do that, it's not easy. So you just be honest with them, and you tell them the why part. And it ended up being good. This person latched on somewhere else and thanked me later this year for that conversation and how and handling that. And honesty is so real. And there's some hard conversations, but you got to be honest. When you're honest, you know, it's very powerful, and it's easy for me to be honest. But they always say when you're not honest, right, you never have to remember what you said. And so just be honest and be real with people. And then the last one here is no regrets. So I know I've hit some different lists, but no regrets. This is the biggest one that Ryan and myself work together with for our team, right? For us. That's how we work. No regrets. What does that mean? So no regrets to us is whatever you do, you never look back. Free agency, trades, releases, decisions that you make, they're not always easy. There's some hard ones. And the collaboration of us together, we reference it as when you get into free agency and you're bidding with other teams as to who to get, you have to decide what's too high. It's like in real estate. There's a house that's foreclosed. It's a foreclosure, and you have 5 different people that want that house. And the realtor says you better get it in by Monday at 6 o'clock with your best offer. And we're taking the best offer, whether that's cash, whether that's the highest price, whether that's no contingencies. And so in free agency, right, if you miss out on somebody, we're going to feel comfortable. I think this is our strength, because we feel comfortable that we gave it our all. We gave it our best offer. And if we get somebody, we don't have the buyer's remorse, right? And that one's really easy to say with 52. That's and thank George for that. Same thing, regrets, questionable play calls. Some of the best ways to improve as a coach are through questionable play calls. When you question yourself, you look back and say, man, I wish I would have called a different play, right? And you don't have regrets. So how you try to fix it, right? I wish I would have made a different decision. And I could go on and on about adversity and all the lows, believe it or not, all the things that I went through that made me stronger. And that's another deal. But that's what it's all about, is how do you handle that. So all that to say this, okay, and I wrote this down as almost like my credence. Okay, this is what is important to me. Okay, faith, family, manners and respect in others, honesty, never change, stay humble, glass half full, and then the last thing is be you. That's it. That's, if you put a front page of the story you're going to read on me, that's what you're going to get. And you know, we're not going to forget that 16-15 loss that we had in the playoffs on January 6th. None of us will. That hurt. That hurt. But okay, the American novelist Truman Capote said this, and I love this: failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. So just remember that, right? Let's go get this 2019 Super Bowl trophy together. Thank you.